Good evening and welcome. Tonight's story follows a quiet journey into life at sea. Set during the Golden Age of Piracy, you will leave the shore behind. Step aboard a ship bound for the Caribbean and slowly become part of a pirate crew, learning their rhythms, their nights, and their way of living. This is a long, unhurried story, meant to be listened to without effort. You may follow the words if you wish, or simply let them pass as sleep arrives naturally. Let us begin. Part 1, the night you leave the port. You are not a pirate yet. You are standing at the edge of a wooden dock in Portsmouth, England, in the year 1718. The air is cool and damp, and it carries the smell of salt and tar and wet rope. The night is deep around you, settled and quiet, and the only sounds are the gentle lap of water against the pilings below and the distant creak of ships rocking in their berths. You have left no note. You have made no announcement. You have simply walked away. Behind you, somewhere in the narrow streets of the port town, is the life you have been living, the room you rented, the work you did each day, the same tasks repeated in the same order, the same voices telling you when to rise and when to rest. The expectations that wrapped around you like bindings, tighter each year, until you could hardly breathe beneath them. You have left all of that behind now, and you are standing here in the darkness, with a small canvas bag slung over your shoulder and the night air filling your lungs. You breathe in slowly. You breathe out. No one is calling your name. No one is asking where you are going or when you will return. For the first time in longer than you can remember, there is no schedule pressing against you. No bell ringing to mark the hour, no voice demanding your attention. There is only this: the dock beneath your feet, the water moving in the harbor, and the ships waiting in the darkness. You stand there for a long moment, just breathing, just listening. The tension that has lived in your shoulders for so many months begins, slowly, to soften. You did not realize how tightly you have been holding yourself until now, until this moment of release. The dock stretches out before you, long and weathered, its wooden planks silvered by moonlight. Lanterns hang at intervals along the wharf, their flames sheltered behind thick glass, casting small pools of golden light that barely touch the surrounding darkness. Between these pools, the night is complete and comforting. You begin to walk. Your footsteps sound soft against the wood, a gentle rhythm that matches the slow breathing of the sea. You pass coiled ropes as thick as your arm. You pass barrels stacked and waiting, smelling of apples and salt pork and rum. You pass the shadowed hulls of merchant ships, their masts rising like bare trees into the night sky. And then you see her. The ship is called the *Whisperer*. You learned her name 3 days ago when you inquired, quietly, carefully, about passage to the Caribbean. She is a merchant vessel, a 3-masted square rigger with a dark hull and worn sails furled against her yards. She is not beautiful. She is not grand. But she is going where you need to go, and she is leaving tonight, and that is enough. That is more than enough. You stand at the bottom of the gangplank looking up. The ship rocks gently in her berth, a slow and steady motion, and you can hear the faint groan of her timbers, the whisper of water along her sides. A single lantern burns near the stern, and in its light you can see a figure moving on deck, the night watch perhaps, or a crew member securing something before departure. You have paid for your passage. You have been told to come aboard quietly. And so you do. You place your foot on the gangplank, and it shifts slightly beneath your weight. You pause, steadying yourself, and then you begin to climb. One step, another. The wood creaks softly. The ship seems to breathe beneath you, rising and falling with the gentle movement of the water. When you reach the deck, you stop and stand very still. The night air feels different here aboard the ship. It feels wider somehow, less contained. The deck stretches out before you, shadowed and quiet, and beyond the railings you can see the lights of Portsmouth scattered along the shore like fallen stars. But already they seem distant, already they seem to belong to another world. A voice speaks from the shadows near the mainmast. "You the last one?" You turn. A man steps into the dim light of the lantern, an older man, lean and weathered, with gray in his beard and a calm expression. He is not demanding. He is not sharp. He is simply asking. "Yes," you say quietly. "I'm the last one." He nods as if this is expected, as if this is fine. "Stow your gear below. We'll be casting off within the hour. Cabins forward, down the companion ladder. Find yourself a hammock." You nod, you thank him. He waves a hand as if to say it is nothing, and he turns back to his work, checking a line, adjusting something you cannot quite see in the darkness. You make your way across the deck. The wood is smooth beneath your feet, worn by years of weather and footsteps. You pass the capstan, the ship's boats lashed and covered, the hatch gratings that let air flow into the hold below. Everything is quiet. Everything is ready. The companion ladder leads down into a narrow space between decks. You descend carefully, one hand on the rail, and as you go lower, the smell changes. Less salt air, more wood and canvas, and the faint musk of bodies sleeping. There is a single lantern burning here, turned low, and in its light you can see hammocks strung in rows, swaying gently with the ship's motion. Most are occupied. You can hear the soft sounds of breathing, the occasional shift of weight, the creak of rope. You find an empty hammock near the forward bulkhead. You sling your bag onto a hook and stand there for a moment, looking around. This is where you will sleep. This is where you will live for the weeks ahead as the ship carries you across the Atlantic, away from everything you have known. You reach out and touch the hammock. The canvas is worn but clean, and it swings gently at your touch, as if welcoming you. You do not yet climb in. Instead, you make your way back up the companion ladder, back onto the deck. You want to be outside when the ship leaves the harbor. You want to see it happen. You want to feel it. On deck, the crew is beginning to move with quiet purpose. You hear low voices giving instructions, the sound of ropes being cast off, the creak of the capstan as it begins to turn. You stay out of the way, standing near the rail, watching. The ship begins to move. It is so slow at first that you almost do not notice. Just a gentle easing away from the dock, a widening gap between the hull and the pilings. The water slips past, dark and smooth, reflecting fragments of lantern light. The lights of Portsmouth begin to slide away to starboard, growing smaller, their warmth fading into the distance. You grip the rail and breathe. No one has stopped you. No one has called you back. You are leaving, and it is actually happening. And the relief that washes through you is so profound that for a moment you feel you might weep. But you do not weep. You simply stand there, holding the rail, watching the land fall away behind you. The ship moves out into the harbor, her sails still furled, pulled by the current and the efforts of the crew at the capstan. The wind is light tonight, just a breath against your face, and it smells of open water and freedom. You close your eyes. You let the motion of the ship settle into your body, the gentle rise and fall, the slow rocking that is like being cradled. You have never been aboard a ship before, not like this, not as it leaves the land behind. The sensation is strange and wonderful. You feel unmoored, adrift, and it is exactly what you need. Time passes. You are not sure how much. You stand at the rail, eyes closed, breathing with the rhythm of the ship, and slowly the sounds of the harbor fade. The voices of the crew grow quieter. The creak of the rigging becomes a kind of music, repetitive and soothing. When you open your eyes again, the shore is far behind. The lights of Portsmouth are small now, a distant cluster of gold against the darkness. Ahead, there is only the open sea, black and vast and waiting. The first mate calls out an order, and the crew begins to unfurl the sails. You watch as the canvas drops and fills, catching the night wind. The ship leans slightly, just a degree or two, and her pace increases. You can feel it in the deck beneath your feet, a new energy, a purpose, a direction. You are moving now, truly moving. You stay on deck for a long time, even as the night deepens and the air grows colder. You watch the stars appear overhead, scattered thick and bright across the sky. You watch the foam trail out behind the ship, pale against the dark water. You listen to the sounds of the whisper as she settles into her voyage, the creak of her masts, the hum of wind in the rigging, the steady rush of water along her hull. This is a sound you will come to know well. This is the sound of the ship breathing. Eventually, the cold begins to seep through your clothes, and you realize you are tired, deeply tired. The tension you have been carrying for so long is finally releasing, and in its absence, you feel hollowed out, ready for rest. You make your way back to the companion ladder and descend into the space between decks. The hammocks sway in their rows, and the breathing of the sleeping crew surrounds you like a soft tide. You find your hammock and sit on the edge of it, testing its give, learning its balance. Then you lie back. The hammock enfolds you, rocking with the ship's motion. It takes a moment to find the right position, to let your weight settle, but once you do, it is surprisingly comfortable. You are suspended, swaying, held by the canvas and the rhythm of the sea. You close your eyes. Below you, you can feel the ship moving through the water. You can hear the faint creak of her timbers, the distant sound of footsteps on the deck above, the soft snores of your fellow passengers. And beneath all of it, constant and gentle, is the whisper of the ocean against the hull. You breathe in, you breathe out. For the first time in so long, you feel safe. Not because you are protected from danger. You know there are dangers ahead, storms and uncertainties and 1,000 unknowns. But you feel safe because you have made a choice. You have chosen to leave. You have chosen to go towards something different, something open, something that is not yet defined. You have chosen yourself. The hammock rocks you gently, and the ship carries you forward into the night. You think about the life you have left behind, the streets, the schedules, the voices that told you who to be and when and how. All of it is fading now, like the lights of Portsmouth, growing smaller and smaller until it is just a memory, a distant shore. And ahead there is only the sea. You do not know what will happen in the weeks to come. You do not know who you will become. But tonight, that is all right. Tonight, you are simply here, aboard this ship, breathing with the rhythm of the waves, letting the past fall away. You let your body relax into the hammock. You let the sounds of the ship surround you. You let the motion carry you, rocking you, soothing you. And slowly, gently, you begin to drift toward sleep. The days that follow are like a kind of unwinding. You wake each morning to the sound of the ship, the creak of timbers, the footsteps on deck, the call of the watch changing. There is no bell demanding you rise at a certain hour. There is no voice telling you what to do. You simply wake when your body is ready, and you lie there for a while, swaying in your hammock, listening. The rhythm of life aboard the Whisper is different from anything you have known. It is not governed by the rigid schedules of the land. It is governed instead by the wind, by the sea, by the slow passage of the sun across the sky. There is work to be done, yes. The crew is always busy with sails and ropes and the endless maintenance that a ship requires. But it is work that flows with the natural world, not against it. You are not part of the crew. You are a passenger, and so your time is your own. You spend it on deck mostly, learning the feel of the ship, watching the horizon, breathing the salt air. You find a place near the bow where you can sit with your back against the foremast, out of the way of the working sailors. From here, you can see the ocean stretching out in every direction, endless and ever-changing. Sometimes it is calm, a smooth expanse of blue-gray that reflects the sky. Sometimes it is restless, covered in small waves that catch the light and glitter. And sometimes, when the wind picks up, it becomes something wild and beautiful, all foam and movement and power. You watch it all, and you feel something inside you beginning to shift. The first few days, you think often of what you have left behind. You catch yourself listening for sounds that are not there. The clatter of cart wheels on cobblestones, the shout of a street vendor, the chime of a church bell. You catch yourself expecting someone to appear and tell you what to do next, where to go, what task requires your attention. But no one comes. No one tells you anything. And slowly, those expectations begin to fade. Instead, you learn the rhythms of the ship. You learn that the best time to be on deck is early morning, when the air is cool and the light is soft and golden. You learn that the crew eats twice a day, simple meals of salt pork and ship's biscuit, and whatever vegetables have not yet spoiled. You learn the names of the sails, the mainsail, the foresail, the topsails and topgallants, and you begin to recognize the different sounds they make as the wind fills them or slackens. You learn to walk with the ship's motion, to let your body sway with the deck beneath you, to find your balance in the constant rocking. At first it made you dizzy, made your stomach uncertain. But now it feels natural. Now it feels like the only way to move. You spend hours just watching the sea. There is something meditative about it, something that quiets the constant chatter of your mind. The waves rise and fall. The light changes. Seabirds appear and disappear. And you sit there, breathing, watching, letting time pass without measuring it. Sometimes you talk with the other passengers, a merchant traveling to Barbados, a young couple seeking their fortune in the colonies, an older woman visiting her daughter in Jamaica. The conversations are pleasant but not deep. Everyone seems content to keep their stories to themselves, to simply share the journey without demanding more. And sometimes you talk with members of the crew. They are a mixed group, English and Irish and Scottish, with a few whose accents you cannot quite place. They are not unfriendly, though they are reserved at first, watching to see what kind of person you are. But as the days pass and you prove yourself quiet and respectful, they begin to nod when you pass, to offer a word or two about the weather, to include you in their presence without making a fuss about it. There is one sailor you speak with more than the others. His name is Tom, and he is perhaps 10 years older than you, with dark hair tied back and hands scarred from years of working with rope. He is the one who showed you how to tie a bowline, how to coil a line properly so it does not tangle. He does not ask why you are traveling or what you are leaving behind. He simply treats you as someone who is here, now, learning. One evening, as the sun sets and paints the sky in shades of orange and pink, you are sitting near the rail and Tom comes to stand beside you. He does not speak at first. He just looks out at the horizon, at the endless water turning gold in the fading light. "It gets into you," he says finally. "The sea." You glance at him. "What do you mean?" He shrugs. "Hard to explain. You'll know it when it happens. One day you'll realize you can't imagine being anywhere else. Can't imagine not having this." He gestures at the ocean, at the sky, at the ship beneath your feet. You think about that. You think about the life you left behind and how already it feels like something from another lifetime. "How long have you been sailing?" you ask. 12 years, he says. "Since I was a boy. Started on a fishing boat off Cornwall, then worked my way onto merchant ships. Been all over. Atlantic, Mediterranean, even down to the coast of Africa once." He pauses. "Never gets old. Every voyage is different. Every day the sea shows you something new." You sit together in comfortable silence as the light fades and the stars begin to appear. The ship rocks gently, and the sound of the water is like a lullaby, constant and soothing. "Do you ever miss the land?" you ask. Tom considers this. "Sometimes," he admits. "Miss a good bed, miss fresh food, miss the feel of solid ground." He smiles slightly. "But then we make port for a few days, and after a while I get restless. The land starts to feel too still, too fixed, and I'm glad when we cast off again." You nod slowly. You understand what he means, even though you have only been at sea for a handful of days. Already the land feels like something distant, something that belongs to a different version of yourself. The stars grow brighter overhead, scattered thick across the darkness. You have never seen so many stars. In the city, the lights and smoke obscured them. But out here, with no land in sight and no lanterns burning except the few on deck, the sky is vast and clear and full of light. You lie back on the deck, using your bundled jacket as a pillow, and you look up. The masts rise dark against the stars, swaying slowly with the ship's motion. The sails are pale shapes above you, full of wind. And beyond them, the Milky Way stretches like a river of light across the heavens. Tom settles nearby, leaning against a hatch cover. "Beautiful, isn't it?" He says quietly. "Yes," you whisper. "Yes, it is." You stay there for a long time, just looking up, just breathing. The deck rocks beneath you. The wind hums in the rigging, and the stars wheel slowly overhead, ancient and unchanging, guiding the ship across the dark water. This is what you needed, this vastness, this silence, this sense of being held by something larger than yourself, something that does not demand or judge or expect. The sea does not care who you were before you stepped aboard this ship. It does not care what mistakes you made, what obligations you failed to meet, what disappointments you left in your wake. The sea simply is. And so, now are you. The nights are the best part. After the sun sets and the evening meal is finished, the ship settles into a different rhythm. The day watch gives way to the night watch. The passengers retire below, and the deck becomes a quiet space, lit only by the stars and the single lantern at the stern. You have taken to staying on deck as long as possible each night, reluctant to go below, reluctant to miss a moment of this feeling. You find your spot near the bow, wrap yourself in your cloak against the cool night air, and simply sit. Sometimes you are alone. Sometimes one or two crew members are nearby, standing watch or checking the set of the sails. But no one bothers you. No one asks what you are doing or tells you to go to bed. You are free to be here, and that freedom is a gift you never knew you needed. The ship moves through the darkness, and you move with it. The bow rises and falls with the swells, a gentle motion that never quite repeats itself. Sometimes the rise is slow and smooth. Sometimes it is quicker, steeper. But always there is the fall, the return, the rhythm that goes on and on, hour after hour. You close your eyes and let the motion fill you. You let it become the whole world, this rocking, this swaying, this endless dance between the ship and the sea. There is nothing else you need to think about, nothing else you need to do, just this, just breathing, just being. The sound of the water against the hull is like a voice, whispering secrets you cannot quite understand. It rushes past, foaming and alive, and then it is gone, replaced by more water, more whispers. You listen to it until the sound becomes part of you, until you cannot tell where the ship ends and you begin. You think about release, about letting go, about all the things you held so tightly for so long. The need to be certain, the need to be right, the need to know what comes next. You are letting all of that slip through your fingers now, like water, like wind. And what you are finding in its place is something quieter, something softer. Peace. Not the absence of struggle, but the acceptance of not knowing. The acceptance of being adrift, unmoored, moving toward something you cannot yet see. You open your eyes and look out at the horizon. It is invisible in the darkness, just a vague line where the sea meets the sky. But you know it is there. You know that beyond it, somewhere, is the Caribbean. Islands and warmth and a future you have not yet written. But that is for later. For now, there is only this: the ship, the night, the gentle rocking of the waves. You take a deep breath and let it out slowly. You are not a pirate yet. You are not anything yet. You are simply someone who has left the old life behind and is waiting patiently to see what comes next. And that is enough. 2 weeks into the voyage, you wake one morning to a different quality of light. It takes you a moment to understand what has changed. The hammock rocks beneath you as always. The sounds of the ship are the same, the creak of timbers, the footsteps above, the murmur of voices. But the light filtering down through the hatch is different, warmer. Golden, you climb out of your hammock and make your way up to the deck. The first thing you notice is the warmth. The air is no longer cool and damp. It is soft and warm, like a gentle hand against your skin. The second thing you notice is the color of the water. It has changed from gray-blue to a brilliant turquoise, clear and bright, and so beautiful it makes you catch your breath. You have entered the Caribbean. You walk to the rail and stand there, staring. The water is like nothing you have ever seen. You can see down into it, see the shafts of sunlight penetrating the depths, see the shadows of fish moving below. The sky above is a clear, vivid blue, and the sun is strong and warm on your face. Tom appears beside you, grinning. Different from the North Atlantic, eh? You nod, unable to speak for a moment. It's incredible. He says, gets me every time. No matter how many times I make this crossing, that first sight of Caribbean water never gets old. He leans on the rail beside you. We'll make Bridgetown in 2 days if the wind holds, Barbados. 2 days. The journey is almost over. You feel a strange mix of emotions, relief, excitement, and something else. Something like reluctance. You have grown accustomed to this life. This in-between existence, suspended between the land you left and the land you are approaching. Part of you does not want it to end. Part of you wants to stay aboard the Whisper forever, rocking with the waves, held by the rhythm of the sea. But you know that is not possible. The ship will make port. You will disembark. And then you will have to decide what comes next. For now, though, you push those thoughts away. You simply stand at the rail, feeling the warm wind on your face, watching the turquoise water slip past beneath you. The days in the Caribbean are different. The sun is fierce during the day, hot enough that most of the passengers retreat to the shade. But in the early mornings and the evenings, the warmth is perfect, soft and enveloping, like being wrapped in silk. You spend even more time on deck now, unwilling to miss a moment of this beauty. You watch the flying fish that leap from the water and glide on their wing-like fins. You watch the dolphins that sometimes appear alongside the ship, racing through the bow wave, leaping and playing. You watch the changing colors of the water as the sun moves across the sky. Turquoise in the morning, deep blue at midday, gold and pink at sunset. And at night, the stars seem even brighter here, even more abundant. The constellations are different this far south. The North Star is lower on the horizon. New patterns of light have appeared, unfamiliar and beautiful. You lie on the deck one night, looking up, and you think about transformation. About how you are not the same person who boarded this ship in Portsmouth. That person was tight and anxious and weighted down by expectations. This person, the one lying here beneath the Caribbean stars, is looser, quieter, more open. You have not become a pirate. You have not become anything dramatic or defined, but you have become someone who is no longer afraid of not knowing. Someone who is learning to trust the journey. Someone who is beginning to understand what Tom meant when he said the sea gets into you. Because it has gotten into you. It has seeped into your bones, your breath, your blood. The rhythm of the waves is your rhythm now. The endless horizon is your home. And when the ship finally sails into Bridgetown Harbor 2 days later, when you see the green hills of Barbados rising from the sea and the red roofs of the town clustered along the shore, you feel something unexpected. You feel sad. You do not want to leave the ship. You do not want this part of the journey to end. But the Whisper drops anchor in the harbor, and the crew begins the work of preparing to dock. The other passengers gather their belongings, excited and chattering about reaching land at last. And you stand at the rail, looking at the island, feeling the ship rock beneath you one last time. Tom comes to say goodbye. "You'll do well here," he says, shaking your hand. "I can tell, you've got the sea in you now. You'll find your way." You thank him. You thank the captain, who nods gruffly and wishes you fair winds. And then you collect your bag and make your way down the gangplank, your legs unsteady on the solid ground of the dock. Bridgetown is busy and bright, full of color and noise and motion. People call out in English and French and languages you do not recognize. The air smells of spices and salt fish and rum. Buildings painted in yellows and pinks line the waterfront, and beyond them you can see the green of palm trees swaying in the breeze. It is overwhelming after the quiet of the ship. Too much. Too loud, too still. You stand on the dock for a long moment, just breathing, trying to adjust. And then you look back at the asterisk Whisper, rocking gently in her berth. The crew is already working, unloading cargo, preparing for whatever comes next. The ship that carried you across the ocean, that gave you those weeks of peace and release and transformation. You raise a hand in a silent farewell. Then you turn and walk into the town, into the noise, into the next chapter of your life. You are not a pirate yet, but you are no longer the person who left Portsmouth. You are someone new, someone still forming, someone open to whatever the Caribbean has to offer. And that is enough. For now, that is enough. Part 2, your first weeks at sea. Time begins to lose meaning. You are aboard a different ship now. Not the Whisper Asterisk, which sailed back to England a week after you arrived in Bridgetown, but a smaller vessel called the Asterisk Patience Asterisk. She is a coastal trader, running between the islands of the Caribbean, carrying sugar and rum and cotton, and sometimes passengers who need to move from one island to another. You found work aboard her almost by accident. You had been standing on the docks in Bridgetown, watching the ships come and go, feeling restless and unmoored on solid ground when a man approached you. He was the first mate of the Patience Asterisk, and he was looking for an extra hand, someone willing to work for passage and a small wage, someone who did not mind hard labor and long days at sea. You said yes before he had finished asking. That was 3 weeks ago, or maybe 4. You are not entirely sure anymore. The days have begun to blur together in the most gentle, welcome way. There is no calendar aboard the Patience Asterisk. There are no schedules that divide time into rigid segments. There is only the rhythm of the ship, the rhythm of the sea, and the slow turning of the sun and moon across the sky. You wake when your body tells you to wake. You work when there is work to be done. You eat when the meals are prepared. You sleep when exhaustion pulls you down into your hammock. And in between, there are long stretches of time that seem to exist outside of time itself. Moments when you are simply present, simply breathing, simply moving with the ship across the water. It is the most peace you have ever known. The morning watch begins before dawn. You are shaken awake gently by the sailor whose watch you are relieving, a quiet man named James who has shown you kindness since you came aboard. You blink in the darkness, disoriented for just a moment, and then you remember where you are. The hammock sways beneath you. The ship creaks and groans in the familiar way that has become a kind of music. You can hear the water moving against the hull, that constant whisper that never stops. You climb out of your hammock carefully, mindful not to disturb the other sailors sleeping nearby. The space between decks is dark and close, smelling of wood and canvas and unwashed bodies. But it is not unpleasant. It is the smell of life, of people living together in a small space, and you have grown used to it. You pull on your shirt and make your way up the companion ladder. On deck, the air is cool and fresh. The sky is still dark, but there is a faint lightening along the eastern horizon, the first hint of dawn. The stars are beginning to fade, though the brightest ones still shine overhead. The wind is steady from the east, warm even at this hour, and the sails are full and pulling. James nods to you as you emerge. "Quiet night," he says softly. "Wind's been steady. No changes needed. Captain wants to hold this course until full light, then we'll adjust for the shallows off Antigua." You nod. You understand now what he means by shallows, by adjusting course, by holding steady. These are words that were foreign to you a few weeks ago, but now they are becoming part of your vocabulary, part of the language of the ship. James descends below to get his rest, and you are left alone on deck. This is your favorite time, the morning watch. The hours before the sun rises, when the ship feels like it belongs only to you. when the world is reduced to this small vessel moving across the dark water, carrying you towards something you cannot see but somehow trust is there. You make your way to the bow and stand at the rail, looking out. The water is black and smooth, barely visible in the darkness, but you can hear it rushing past the hull, foaming and alive. You can feel it through the soles of your feet, the vibration of the ship cutting through the sea. You breathe in deeply. The air tastes of salt and warmth. Somewhere far ahead, invisible in the darkness, is the island of Antigua. You have never been there. You do not know what it looks like, what it will smell like when you approach, what kind of people live there. But you will arrive before noon, and you will spend a day unloading cargo, and then you will sail on to the next island and the next. This is the pattern now. This is the rhythm. And you are learning to move with it, to let it carry you, to stop trying to plan or control or know what comes next. The sky begins to light. At first, it is just a gradual fading of the darkness, a softening along the eastern horizon. But then color appears, pale pink, then orange, then a brilliant gold that spreads across the sky like fire. The clouds catch the light and glow. The water begins to reflect the colors, turning from black to deep blue to turquoise as the sun rises. You watch the whole transformation, standing at the rail, barely breathing. This happens every morning. Every single morning the sun rises and paints the sky in these impossible colors. And yet it never feels ordinary. It never feels like something you can take for granted. Each sunrise is a gift, a reminder that you are alive, that you are here, that you have escaped the gray routine of your old life and found this instead. The sun lifts above the horizon, and suddenly the world is bright and warm. You can see the water clearly now, see the way it moves and sparkles, see the flying fish that leap and glide. You can see the shape of the sails above you, the lines of the rigging, the masts rising against the blue sky. And far ahead, just visible on the horizon, you can see the dark smudge of land. Antigua, you smile. The work aboard the Patience is hard, but it is good work. You are learning the language of the ship, not just the words, but the deeper language of ropes and sails and wind. You are learning to read the tension in a line, to know by the feel of it whether it is pulling too hard or not hard enough. You are learning to tie knots quickly and surely, your fingers moving through the motions until they become automatic. You are learning to climb the rigging, to move along the yards where the sails are furled, to work at heights that would have terrified you just weeks ago. At first, everything took so long. You fumbled with the ropes. You hesitated on the ratlins. You had to ask questions constantly, had to be shown again and again how to do even simple tasks. But the crew was patient. They did not mock you or grow frustrated. They simply showed you, corrected you when needed, and let you learn at your own pace. Because they remember, perhaps, when they were new to this life, when the language of the ship was foreign to them too. And slowly, steadily, you are learning. You are learning to coil a line so it lies flat and neat, ready to run out smoothly when needed. You are learning to splice rope, to marry two ends together so the join is strong and barely visible. You are learning the names of every sail, every line, every piece of the ship's rigging, the halyards that raise the yards, the sheets that control the angle of the sails, the braces that swing the yards around to catch the wind. You are learning to hear the ship speak. Because the Patience asterisk does speak in her way. She tells you when something is wrong, a line too tight, a sail poorly set, a change in the wind that requires attention. She creaks and groans and hums, and you are beginning to understand what each sound means. When the wind shifts, you can hear it in the change of pitch in the rigging. When a sail begins to luff, to flutter and lose its shape, you can hear the different quality of the canvas, the inefficiency of it. When the ship is moving well, cutting cleanly through the water with all sails set and drawing properly, there is a kind of harmony to all the sounds, a rightness that you can feel more than explain. You are becoming part of the ship, part of the crew, part of this life. The work follows a rhythm that shapes your days. In the morning, after the sun rises, there is breakfast, simple food, usually salt pork fried in a pan, ship's biscuit softened in tea, sometimes a piece of fruit if you are near an island that grows them. You eat standing up or sitting on a hatch cover, balancing your plate, talking little because everyone is still waking up, still settling into the day. After breakfast, there is work, always work. The ship requires constant attention, constant care. Sails need to be adjusted as the wind changes. Lines need to be checked for wear and replaced if they are fraying. The deck needs to be swabbed and holystoned to keep the wood clean and smooth. Rust needs to be scraped from metal fittings. Canvas needs to be mended where it has torn. You do whatever needs doing. You do not complain. You do not ask why. You simply work alongside the others, moving with the rhythm of the tasks, letting the labor fill the hours. And strangely, you do not mind it. The work is hard, yes. Your hands have developed calluses. Your muscles ache at the end of the day. But there is something satisfying about it, something that the work on land never gave you. This work has purpose. This work keeps the ship safe, keeps her moving, keeps all of you alive. And when you finish a task, when you coil the last line or mend the last patch of sail, you can see the result immediately. You can see that it is good. Midday, there is a break for the noon meal. More salt pork, or perhaps salt fish with rice or beans. The cook is a round, cheerful man from Jamaica who hums to himself as he works and somehow makes even the simplest food taste better than it should. You eat in the shade of the mainsail, resting your back against a mast or a barrel, and you listen to the talk of the crew. They speak of islands they have visited, cargoes they have carried, storms they have weathered. They speak of women in port towns, of taverns where the rum is cheap and the music is good. They speak of other ships they have sailed on, other captains they have served under. Some of these stories are true. Some are probably exaggerated, but it does not matter. The stories are part of the rhythm, part of the fabric of this life. Sometimes they ask you questions. Where are you from? What brought you to the Caribbean? Do you plan to stay at sea? You answer simply. You tell them about Portsmouth, about leaving, about wanting something different. You do not tell them everything. There are parts of your old life that feel too distant now, too private, but you tell them enough. And they nod, understanding. Because most of them have their own stories of leaving, their own reasons for choosing this life over the one they were born into. After the noon meal, there is more work. Or sometimes, if the ship is sailing smoothly and the wind is steady and the captain is in a good mood, there is a bit of rest. You can find a shaded spot and close your eyes for an hour. You can sit and watch the water. You can do nothing at all. You have learned to treasure these moments of rest, not because you are lazy, but because they are part of the rhythm too. Work and rest, effort and ease, the balance that keeps you sane and whole. As the afternoon wears on and the sun begins to lower toward the horizon, there is often more work, setting the ship up for the night watch, making sure everything is secure, preparing the evening meal. And then, as the light fades and the day cools, there is supper. The evening meal is the longest, the most relaxed. The crew gathers on deck, sitting in clusters, eating and talking as the stars begin to appear. The captain sometimes joins you, sitting on a hatch cover and sharing stories from his years at sea. He is an older man, weathered and lean, with a quiet authority that does not need to be loud. He runs his ship well, treats his crew fairly, and you have come to respect him deeply. After supper, there is the slow settling into night. The ship is checked one last time. The watch is set. Those who are not on duty drift below to their hammocks or find spots on deck where they can sleep under the stars. And you, more often than not, stay on deck. The nights are when you feel most yourself. The ship sails on through the darkness, and you find your spot near the bow, wrapped in a blanket or your cloak, and you simply sit. Sometimes you are alone. Sometimes one or two others join you, James, or Tom the sailmaker, or young Peter, who is only 16 and still learning the ropes. But even when there are others nearby, there is a quality of solitude to these hours, a sense that each person is alone with their thoughts, held by the night and the sea. The sky above is vast and black, scattered with more stars than you ever imagined could exist. You have learned some of their names now. The Southern Cross, low on the southern horizon. Orion, familiar from your time in England but positioned differently here. The Pleiades, that small cluster of sisters. And the Milky Way, that great river of light that stretches overhead and seems to pour down into the sea. The ship rocks beneath you, and you rock with it. The motion has become so natural now that you barely notice it. Your body has learned to sway with the deck, to anticipate the rise and fall, to move as the ship moves. On the rare occasions when you go ashore, the solid ground feels wrong, too still, too fixed. You find yourself swaying even when standing on the dock, your body expecting movement that is not there. You have become a creature of the sea. The water rushing past the hull is hypnotic. You can sit and listen to it for hours, that constant whisper and rush, that sound like breathing. Sometimes you think you can hear voices in it, speaking in languages you do not understand. Sometimes you think you can hear music, but mostly it is just the sound itself, the pure presence of it, filling the night. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. This is what you needed. This is what you were seeking without knowing how to name it. Not adventure, not excitement, not even freedom exactly. But this sense of being held by something larger than yourself. This sense of moving with a rhythm that is older and deeper than any human schedule or expectation. The sea does not care what you accomplish. It does not measure your worth by how productive you are or how well you meet deadlines. The sea simply is, and it asks only that you respect it, learn from it, move with it. And in return, it holds you. It carries you. It becomes a kind of home. You are sleeping better than you have in years. Back in Portsmouth, sleep was always difficult. You would lie in your narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, mind racing with worries and plans and the endless litany of things you needed to do. You would finally drift off near dawn, only to be woken too soon by the sound of the city stirring, by the demands of the day pressing in on you. But here, aboard the Patience Asterisk, sleep comes easily. The hammock holds you like a gentle hand. The rocking of the ship soothes you. And the sounds, the creak of timbers, the rush of water, the distant voices of the night watch, are not disturbing but comforting. They are the sounds of safety, of a ship that is whole and moving well, of people watching over you while you rest. You close your eyes in your hammock, and within minutes you are drifting. Your dreams are different here too. They are not the anxious, fragmented dreams of your old life, dreams of being late, of forgetting something important, of being chased or trapped or lost. Instead, they are calm and fluid. You dream of water. You dream of flying. You dream of floating in a vast, warm darkness, held and safe. Sometimes you dream of your old life, but even those dreams are not distressing anymore. You see the streets of Portsmouth, the room where you lived, the faces of people you once knew. But you see them from a distance now, as if looking back at someone else's life. There is no longing, no regret, just a quiet recognition that this was once your world and now it is not. You wake slowly, naturally, rising up through layers of sleep like surfacing from deep water. You open your eyes to the dim space between decks, to the swaying hammocks and the soft breathing of the crew. And you feel rested, truly rested, not just in body, but in mind and soul. This is a gift you did not expect. This deep, nourishing sleep. This sense of being able to let go completely, to trust that the ship will carry on without your vigilance, that the sea will hold you while you rest. The islands come and go. Antigua, Montserrat, Nevis, St. Kitts. Each one is different, each one has its own character and smell and feel. But you do not spend much time ashore. A day here, half a day there, just long enough to unload cargo and take on new goods. Just long enough to stretch your legs and buy a piece of fresh fruit from a market stall before returning to the ship. Because the ship is where you want to be. The ship is home now. You watch the islands from the deck as you approach and depart. You see the green mountains rising from the turquoise water, the white beaches, the clusters of buildings that mark the port towns. You see the fishing boats and the canoes, the people moving along the shore. And it all looks beautiful and foreign and somehow separate from you. Your world has become small in the best possible way. It has become this deck, these sails, this crew. It has become the daily rhythm of work and rest, the constant motion of the sea, the ever-changing sky above. You are learning to trust this world, learning to trust that the ship will keep sailing, that the wind will keep blowing, that the sea will keep holding you up. This trust is new to you. In your old life, you trusted nothing. You planned and worried and tried to control every outcome because you believed that if you did not, everything would fall apart. But here, you have no choice but to trust. You cannot control the wind. You cannot command the sea. All you can do is work with what you are given, adjust the sails when needed, and trust that the ship knows how to move through the water. And slowly, this trust is seeping into other parts of you. You are learning to trust yourself, your hands, your judgment, your ability to learn. You are learning to trust the crew, to know that they will catch you if you slip in the rigging, that they will show you what to do when you are uncertain. You are learning to trust time, to know that you do not need to rush, that things will unfold at their own pace, that there is enough time for everything that needs to happen. This trust is like a weight lifting from your shoulders. A weight you did not even realize you were carrying until it began to ease. One evening, after the sun has set and the stars are beginning to appear, you find yourself sitting on deck with the captain. He is a man of few words, but the words he speaks carry weight. He has been at sea for more than 30 years, since he was a boy younger than Peter. He has sailed the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, the Caribbean and the coast of Africa. He has weathered hurricanes and doldrums, mutinies and battles. And yet he seems at peace, as if all those years have taught him something essential about how to be in the world. You sit in comfortable silence for a while, just watching the water. Then he speaks. "You're settling in well," he says. "It is not a question, just an observation." "Thank you, sir," you say. "I'm trying to learn." He nods. "You've got the right attitude." Some people come to sea and they fight it. They want the ship to behave like solid ground. They want the sea to be predictable and tame, and they're miserable because it never is. You consider this. And the ones who aren't miserable, they learn to move with it, he says simply. They learn that the ship is alive in its way, that the sea has its own will. And instead of fighting, they listen. They adjust. They become part of the rhythm. He looks at you. You're doing that. I can see it in how you move, how you work. You're not fighting anymore. You feel a warmth in your chest at his words because he is right. You are not fighting anymore. For the first time in your life, you are not resisting where you are, wishing you were somewhere else, trying to force things to be different than they are. You are here, fully here, and it is enough. The sea changes you, the captain continues. If you let it. Some people spend years at sea and they never change. They're just the same on deck as they were on land, carrying all their rigidity and fear with them. But others, the sea gets inside them, teaches them things, makes them wiser, calmer. He pauses. I think you're one of the latter. You do not know what to say to that, so you simply nod. The captain stands, stretches, and looks up at the stars. We'll be in St. Kitts tomorrow morning. Should be a quick stop, just dropping off some barrels of sugar. Then we're heading south to Dominica. Have you been there yet? No, sir. Beautiful island, lush, mountains covered in jungle, waterfalls everywhere. He smiles slightly. You'll like it. He nods to you and makes his way toward his cabin, leaving you alone on deck. You sit there for a long time, thinking about his words. The sea changes you. The sea gets inside you. Yes. Yes, it does. You can feel it happening, this slow transformation. You are not becoming someone else entirely. You are still yourself, still carrying your memories and your history. But you are becoming a different version of yourself. A quieter version. A more patient version. A version that knows how to trust, how to rest, how to move with the rhythm of the world instead of against it. You lie back on the deck, using your bundled cloak as a pillow, and you look up at the stars. The ship rocks gently beneath you. The water whispers against the hull. The wind hums in the rigging, and you close your eyes and smile. The weeks continue to blur. You lose track of how long you have been aboard the Patience asterisk. A month? 6 weeks? It does not matter. Time is measured differently now, not in days or weeks, but in islands visited, in storms weathered, in skills learned. You can tie a dozen knots now without thinking. You can splice rope and mend canvas. You can take your turn at the wheel, steering the ship by the feel of the wind and the compass heading called out by the captain. You can climb to the top of the mainmast and work on the highest yard without fear, your hands sure and your balance steady. You are becoming a sailor. It is not a dramatic transformation. There is no moment when you suddenly know everything. No ceremony that marks your passage from novice to experienced hand. It is gradual, almost invisible, a slow accumulation of knowledge and confidence. a growing ease with the language and rhythms of the ship. But one day you realize that the other sailors are no longer watching you with the careful attention they give to someone new. They trust you now. They expect you to know what to do. And when you make a mistake, because everyone makes mistakes, even experienced sailors, they simply correct you and move on without judgment. You have become part of the crew. This belonging is something you have never felt before. In your old life, you were always an outsider, always slightly apart from everyone around you. You went through the motions of work and socializing, but you never felt truly connected, truly seen. Here, though, you are seen. Not for what you accomplish or what you contribute, but simply for being here, being willing, being part of the shared effort of keeping the ship sailing. The crew knows your name. They know your strengths and your weaknesses. They know that you are quiet in the mornings, that you prefer the night watch, that you are good with your hands but still learning to read the weather. And they accept you without question, without reservation. This acceptance settles into you like ballast, giving you a stability you have never known. One afternoon, you are working with James on mending a sail that tore in a squall the night before. The two of you are sitting on deck in the shade of the mainsail, needles and palm guards in hand, working the heavy canvas with strong thread. James is humming softly to himself, a tuneless melody that rises and falls with the rocking of the ship. You work in companionable silence for a while, and then he speaks. "You planning to stay with the patients?" he asks. You glance at him, surprised by the question. I hadn't thought that far ahead." He nods as if this makes sense. That's the thing about this life. Hard to plan. Wind changes, captain changes his mind, cargo isn't where it's supposed to be. You just go where the ship goes. "Do you like that?" you ask, not knowing. He considers this, his needle pausing in its work. "I do," he says finally. "Used to drive me mad back when I first started sailing. I wanted to know where we were going when we'd get there, how long we'd stay. Wanted everything mapped out and certain." He smiles. "But after a few years, I realized that the not knowing is part of the gift. Means you can't get too attached to any one plan. Can't be disappointed when things change. You just adapt." You think about this as you return to your stitching. Adapt. That is what you have been doing these past weeks without consciously naming it. Adapting to the ship, to the sea, to this new life. And James is right, there is a gift in it, a freedom. "I think I might stay," you say quietly. "If the captain will have me." James grins. "He'll have you. You've become a good sailor. And good sailors are always needed." The thought fills you with a quiet joy. To stay, to keep sailing. To let the ship carry you wherever it goes next, without needing to know the destination in advance. Yes, that is what you want. That night, you cannot sleep. It is not anxiety keeping you awake, not worry or fear. It is something else, a kind of aliveness, a humming energy that fills you and will not let you rest. You climb out of your hammock and make your way up to the deck. The night is clear and warm. The moon is nearly full, hanging low on the horizon and painting a silver path across the water. The ship is sailing smoothly, all sails set and drawing well, and the only sounds are the familiar creaks and whispers that you have come to love. You walk to the bow and stand at the rail, looking out at the moonlit sea. You think about the person you were when you left Portsmouth. That tight, anxious, exhausted person who could barely breathe under the weight of expectations and schedules. That person feels like a stranger now, someone from another lifetime. and you think about who you are now. This person who has found peace in the rhythm of the ship, who has learned to trust the sea, who sleeps deeply and works with purpose and moves with grace through a world that is constantly changing. The transformation is not complete, you know that. There are still parts of you that are uncertain, still questions about who you are becoming and where this life will lead. But the foundation has shifted. The core of you has changed. You are no longer running away from something. You are moving towards something, even if you do not yet know what it is. The moon rises higher, and its light grows brighter. The water sparkles and shimmers, alive with reflected silver. And the ship sails on, carrying you forward, carrying you deeper into this new life. You spread your arms wide, feeling the warm wind on your face, feeling the deck rock beneath your feet, feeling the vastness of the sea and sky all around you. And you laugh. It starts as a chuckle, soft and surprised. But then it grows, bubbling up from somewhere deep inside you, spilling out into the night. You laugh with pure joy, with relief, with gratitude for this life you have found. You are not a pirate yet. You are still just a sailor on a small trading vessel, learning the ropes, doing your work, moving from island to island. But you are free, truly free, and you are home. The laughter fades, but the smile remains. You stand at the rail for a long time, just breathing, just being, just trusting the sea to hold you. And it does. It holds you gently, surely, the way it has held countless sailors before you and will hold countless more after you are gone. You are part of something ancient and endless, part of the rhythm of wind and wave, of sail and star, part of the great conversation between ship and sea that has been going on since humans first ventured out onto the water. And in this moment, standing at the rail with the moon above and the ocean below, you are exactly where you need to be, exactly who you need to be. The ship sails on through the silver night, and you sail with her, trusting, resting, becoming. You are now fully part of the crew. The Patience no longer sails the trade routes between the islands. She has a new name now, painted roughly over the old one, the *Calm Water*, and she has a new purpose. She is a pirate ship, though not the kind you once imagined when you heard that word. There was no dramatic moment of transformation. No battle, no mutiny, no flag raised in defiance. It happened gradually, almost gently, the way most true changes happen. The captain had gathered the crew one evening as you lay at anchor off the coast of Dominica. The sun had just set, and the sky was the color of bruised plums. He stood on the deck and spoke quietly, his weathered face calm in the lantern light. "There's talk," he said, "of the trading companies tightening their grip. More rules, more taxes, more inspectors checking manifests and demanding papers." He paused. "I've been sailing these waters for 30 years, and I've never much liked being told where I can go and what I can carry. I expect some of you feel the same." There was a murmur of agreement from the crew. "So I'm proposing we change our approach," the captain continued. "We keep sailing, we keep trading, but we do it on our own terms, no manifests, no inspectors. We take what we need from ships that can afford to lose it, and we trade with those who don't ask questions." He looked around at each face. "This is a choice. Any man who wants to leave can do so now, with my blessing and enough coin to get passage elsewhere. But those who stay, you're saying yes to a different kind of life, quieter than you might think, but outside the law nonetheless." You had stood there in the warm darkness, listening, and you had felt no fear, no hesitation, just a quiet sense of rightness. You stayed. You all stayed. And so the patience became the asterisk calm water asterisk, and you became, by the world's definition, a pirate. But the rhythm of your days changed very little. You still wake to the sound of the ship breathing. You still work the sails and mend the lines. You still eat salt pork and ship's biscuit, still sleep in your hammock, still stand watch under the stars. The difference is subtle but profound. You are no longer moving according to anyone else's schedule. You sail where the captain chooses, when the wind is favorable, stopping when there is reason to stop and moving on when it feels right. There is no cargo master in port demanding you arrive on a certain date. No inspector checking your papers. No one to answer to except yourselves and the sea. It is a life without urgency. And in that absence of urgency, you are discovering a depth of peace you never knew existed. The days unfold slowly, like sails filling with a gentle breeze. You wake in the hours before dawn, as you have come to prefer. The space between decks is dark and quiet, filled with the breathing of sleeping men and the ever-present creak of the ship's timbers. You lie in your hammock for a few moments, feeling it sway with the motion of the water, and you listen. The ship tells you things, if you know how to listen. You can hear in the sound of the hull moving through water whether the sea is calm or beginning to roughen. You can hear in the tension of the rigging whether the wind is steady or starting to shift. You can hear in the quality of the silence whether everyone aboard is at peace or whether there is some tension that needs attention. This morning, everything sounds right. The ship is moving well. The crew is resting. The sea is gentle. You rise slowly, careful not to disturb the hammock next to yours where James sleeps, his breath deep and even. You pull on your shirt and trousers, both worn soft from weeks of salt water and sun, and you make your way up the companion ladder. On deck, the world is still caught between night and day. The stars are fading, but not yet gone. The eastern horizon shows just a hint of pale light. The air is warm and soft against your skin, and it carries the smell of the sea, that complex scent of salt and life and distance that you have learned to love. The night watch nods to you from his position near the wheel. It is Tom tonight, the sailmaker, an older man with patient hands and a quiet voice. He does not speak, just acknowledges your presence with a small gesture, and you settle into your usual spot near the bow. This is your time. The hour before dawn when the ship feels like it exists outside of time altogether, suspended between the darkness and the light. You sit with your back against the foremast and simply breathe. In your old life, the life that feels now like something you read about in a book rather than something you lived, there was never time for this. Never time to simply sit and be. Every moment had to be filled with productivity, with purpose, with movement towards some goal. Even rest was structured, scheduled, something you did only when you had earned it. But here, now, you have learned a different way. You have learned that doing nothing is not the same as being idle. That sitting quietly and breathing is not a waste of time, but rather the very thing that makes all the other time meaningful. That the space between tasks is as important as the tasks themselves. The light grows slowly. The eastern sky shifts from black to deep blue to a pale, luminous gold. And you watch it happen, every gradual shade, every subtle transformation. You do not rush it. You do not wish for the sun to rise faster. You simply witness the unfolding, and you are grateful to be here to see it. When the sun finally lifts above the horizon, spilling gold across the water, you feel something settle in your chest. Not excitement, not even happiness exactly. Just a deep, quiet contentment. A sense of being exactly where you belong. Tom leaves his post at the wheel and comes to stand near you. He does not speak at first, just looks out at the sunrise. Then he says, very quietly, "Never gets old." You nod. "Never." He smiles slightly and heads below to wake the next watch and get his own rest. You remain where you are, watching as the world brightens and the day truly begins. The work of the ship continues, but it has a different quality now. There is no rushing. No sense that you must finish this task by a certain time or face consequences. The work gets done when it gets done, and if something must wait until tomorrow because the light is fading or the crew is tired, then it waits. This morning, you are working with Peter and James to replace a section of rigging that has begun to fray. You are high up on the mainmast, your feet balanced on a foot rope, your hands working the new line into place. The ship rocks gently beneath you, and you move with her motion, your body understanding now how to shift your weight, how to hold on when needed and when to let go. Peter is young, just 17 and still learning. He fumbles with the knot he is trying to tie, grows frustrated, tries again. James works patiently beside him, not rushing him, not criticizing. Just demonstrating again when needed, offering a quiet word of encouragement. You remember when you were where Peter is now, fumbling with the ropes, uncertain and slow. But no one made you feel ashamed of your learning. They simply gave you time and space to figure it out. This is one of the gifts of this life. Time, patience. The understanding that skill comes slowly, through repetition and attention, and cannot be rushed. You finish securing your section of the line and pause for a moment, just holding the rigging and looking out. From up here, you can see for miles. The ocean stretches in every direction, a shifting expanse of blue and turquoise and deeper blue. The sky is vast and clear, with just a few small clouds drifting far to the north. And far ahead, barely visible on the horizon, is the dark shape of an island. You do not know which island it is. You have stopped trying to keep track of where you are, which island is which. The captain knows. That is enough. Your job is not to navigate, but to keep the ship sailing well, to tend the sails and lines, to be present to the work and the moment. Peter finally gets his knot tied correctly. He looks up at James with a grin, and James nods approvingly. "Good," he says. "Now do it again, and again, until your hands know it without your mind having to think." Peter nods and begins to untie the knot to practice again. You smile and begin your descent down the rigging, moving carefully, always maintaining 3 points of contact as you have been taught. When you reach the deck, you stand for a moment, stretching, feeling the sun warm on your shoulders. The captain is standing near the wheel, studying the horizon through a brass spyglass. He lowers it and sees you watching. "Come here," he says. You walk over and he hands you the spyglass. "Tell me what you see." You raise the glass to your eye and look toward the island ahead. Through the magnification, you can see details you could not see before: the green of vegetation covering hills, a white strip of beach, a small cluster of buildings near a natural harbor. An island, you say, looks inhabited, small settlement. Anything else? You scan the harbor. At first you see nothing, but then you notice a small dark shape near the shore. A boat, perhaps, or, you look more carefully, a ship, small, single-masted. "There's a ship in the harbor," you say. "Good." The captain takes the spyglass back. "She's a sloop, probably a merchant vessel taking on water or making repairs. We'll approach slowly, see if she's worth our interest. Your heart does not race at this. There is no spike of adrenaline, no fear. You have been part of several such encounters over the past weeks, and you have learned that they are rarely dramatic. Most merchant ships, when approached by a vessel like the calm water simply hand over a portion of their cargo without resistance. It is easier than fighting, safer, and most captains understand that pirates, at least pirates like your captain, are not interested in violence or destruction. Only in goods they can trade. We'll reach the island by early afternoon, the captain says. Make sure the men eat a good meal before then, and check all the lines. I want everything secure before we approach. Yes, sir, you say. He nods and returns his attention to the horizon. You make your way across the deck to pass along his instructions. The approach to the island is slow and careful. The captain does not rush. He brings the calm water in gradually, taking a wide arc around the harbor so those aboard the merchant vessel can see you clearly. This is part of the strategy, to be visible, to be calm, to show no aggression. Most of the time, this is enough. Most of the time, there is no need for violence at all. You stand at the rail, watching as the island grows larger, as the details become clearer. You can see now that the settlement is very small, perhaps a dozen buildings, probably a plantation with its workers and a few traders. The merchant sloop is anchored close to shore, and you can see figures moving on her deck. The captain has raised a flag, not the skull and crossbones of stories, but a plain red flag that signals a desire to parley, to talk, to negotiate. The calm water drops anchor at a respectful distance from the merchant ship, and the captain has a boat lowered. He takes James and 2 other crew members with him, along with weapons, but the weapons remain in the boat, visible but not brandished. The message is clear. We are prepared to defend ourselves, but we prefer to talk. You watch from the deck as the boat rows across the calm water toward the merchant vessel. You watch as the captain climbs aboard and disappears from view. And then you wait. This is part of the rhythm too, the waiting. There is no impatience, no pacing. The crew simply finds places to sit or lean, and they wait quietly, trusting that the captain knows what he is doing. You find yourself a spot in the shade of the mainsail and sit with your back against a water barrel. Peter settles nearby, and together you watch the island, the water, the sky. You think there'll be trouble? Peter asks quietly. You shake your head. Hasn't been yet. Aye, he says, but there could be. Someday, you agree. But not today, I think. He nods and falls silent. The 2 of you sit together, not talking, just being present. This is something you have learned from the crew, the value of shared silence. On land, silence between people often felt awkward, something that needed to be filled with words. But here, silence is comfortable. It is connection without the need for constant conversation. The sun is warm. The breeze is gentle. The ship rocks slowly in the calm water of the harbor. Time passes, though you do not measure it. An hour, perhaps, maybe less, maybe more. It does not matter. Eventually, you see the boat returning. The captain and his men row back across the water, and when they climb aboard, the captain is carrying a small wooden chest. His expression is calm, satisfied. Sugar and rum, he says to the crew. Fair trade, no trouble. He sets the chest down and stretches. We'll stay here tonight. The merchant captain has offered us the use of the beach for a fire, and I accepted. We'll have a proper meal for once, stretch our legs, sleep on sand if any of you are tired of your hammocks. There is a quiet murmur of approval from the crew. Not excitement, not celebration, just a pleased acknowledgement that this is good news. You help lower the boats and row ashore with the first group. The beach is white sand, soft and warm beneath your bare feet. There are palm trees swaying in the breeze, and the sound of small waves lapping against the shore is gentle and rhythmic. The crew sets about gathering driftwood for a fire. You work alongside them, moving slowly in no hurry. The sun is lowering toward the horizon now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The air is warm and smells of salt and vegetation, and the faint sweetness of flowers blooming somewhere in the jungle behind the beach. When the fire is built and lit, the cook begins preparing a meal. Fresh fish that the merchant captain provided as part of the trade, along with plantains and some kind of root vegetable you do not recognize, but which tastes sweet and earthy when roasted in the coals. You sit in the sand, your back against a log, and you eat slowly, savoring each bite. The fish is tender and smoky. The plantains are soft and sweet. And after weeks of salt pork and ship's biscuit, this feels like a feast. Around you, the crew eats and talks quietly. No one is loud. No one is drinking to excess or causing trouble. This is not a crew that seeks wildness or chaos. They are simply men who have chosen to live outside the boundaries of the law, but who still value peace and order and respect. As the darkness deepens and the stars begin to appear, someone produces a fiddle. The music that follows is slow and gentle, not a dancing tune, but something contemplative, something that matches the rhythm of the waves and the crackling of the fire. You lie back in the sand and look up at the stars. They seem even brighter here, with the jungle dark behind you and the ocean stretching away in front. The Milky Way is a river of light overhead, and you can see shooting stars streaking across the sky, brief and beautiful. This is your life now. This rhythm of sea and shore, of work and rest, of taking what you need and moving on. It is not the life you imagined when you left Portsmouth. It is better, because it is yours. Chosen, lived on your own terms. The weeks that follow settle into a pattern that is both predictable and ever-changing. You sail from island to island, sometimes stopping at settlements, sometimes anchoring in empty coves to careen the ship, to tip her on her side and scrape the barnacles and weed from her hull. You encounter merchant vessels, and sometimes you take a portion of their cargo, always with negotiation, always with the minimum of force necessary. You learn that being a pirate, at least in this crew, is not about violence or treasure or adventure. It is about freedom. The freedom to sail where you choose, to refuse the demands of governments and companies, to live according to the rhythms of the sea rather than the schedules of commerce. And you learn to measure time differently. There are no clocks aboard the asterisk calm water asterisk. No calendars. No one tracking the days of the week or the date of the month. Time is measured instead by the natural rhythms of the world around you. You measure time by the light. Dawn, midday, dusk, night. The quality of the sunlight tells you what part of the day you are in. The position of the sun or stars tells you which watch is on duty. The moon tells you whether the tides will be high or low, whether the night will be bright or dark. You measure time by the wind. The trade winds that blow steady from the east for weeks at a time, then shift and change with the seasons. The periods of calm when the ship barely moves and you float on glassy water. The squalls that blow up suddenly and drench the deck with warm rain before passing on. You measure time by the tides. The slow rise and fall of the water, twice each day, moving to a rhythm older than any human calendar. You learn to feel the tides in your body, to know without looking whether the water is rising or falling, whether you are moving with the tide or against it. And you measure time by lantern light. Each evening, as the sun sets, the lanterns are lit. One at the stern to mark the ship's position. One or two below decks to light the space where the crew eats and rests. And sometimes a small one near the bow, where whoever is on watch can see to adjust the sails or check the compass. The light from these lanterns is warm and golden, and it creates small circles of illumination in the vast darkness of the sea. You have learned to navigate by this light, to do your work by it, to find your way from one part of the ship to another without needing full brightness. There is something meditative about lantern light. It is not harsh like the sun. It does not illuminate everything at once. It creates shadows, spaces of darkness that remain mysterious. And in those shadows, your imagination can rest. You do not need to see everything. You do not need to know everything. You can simply be present to what the light reveals and trust that what remains in darkness is fine as it is. You spend many evenings sitting on deck near one of these lanterns, watching its flame flicker and sway with the ship's motion. Sometimes you are alone. Sometimes others join you, James or Peter or Tom, or one of the other crew members whose names and faces you now know as well as your own. You do not always talk. Often you simply sit together in the circle of golden light, listening to the sounds of the ship and the sea, watching the stars wheel overhead. This shared silence is one of the deepest gifts of this life. The understanding that you can be together without needing to fill the space with words. That presence is enough. That simply sitting beside another person, breathing the same salt air, rocking with the same motion of the sea, is a form of communion. One night, you are sitting with James near the stern lantern. The sea is calm, and the ship is barely moving, her sails hanging loose in the light breeze. The captain has decided to drift for the night rather than try to make progress in such faint wind, and so the ship floats on the dark water, rocking gently with the swells. James is working on a piece of scrimshaw, carving a design into a piece of whalebone he found on a beach weeks ago. His hands move slowly, carefully, the knife making small, precise cuts. You watch the work take shape in the lantern light, a pattern of waves and stars emerging from the pale surface of the bone. After a long silence, James speaks. You ever think about going back? You consider the question. Back to England? Or to land in general, a settled life. You think about your room in Portsmouth, about the schedules and the noise and the weight of expectations. You think about solid ground, about buildings and streets, about a life lived within boundaries. No, you say quietly, I don't think about going back. James nods, his knife continuing its work. Me neither. Been at sea for 15 years now. Can't imagine living any other way. He pauses, studying the bone in the lantern light. My brother stayed on land, got married, has children, works in a shop in Bristol. Good life by all accounts. Stable, safe. But not for you, you say. Not for me, he agrees. I need this. He gestures at the sea, the sky, the ship. Need the movement, need the not knowing. Need to wake up and not be certain what the day will bring. He smiles slightly. Some people find that terrifying. For me, it's freedom. You nod. You understand exactly what he means, because you feel the same way now. The uncertainty that once frightened you has become something you cherish. The not knowing is not a problem to be solved, but a space to inhabit, a space full of possibility. You've changed, James says, looking at you. Since you first came aboard, you're quieter now, calmer. I feel calmer, you say. I feel settled somehow, even though we're always moving. That's the sea, James says. She settles you if you let her, teaches you that you don't need to be in control of everything, that you can just be. You sit together in the lantern light, listening to the gentle lap of water against the hull, and you feel the truth of his words settling into you. The sea has taught you so much. How to work with your hands, how to trust your balance and your strength, how to read the wind and the waves. But more than that, it has taught you how to be present, how to be patient, how to be at peace with uncertainty. These are lessons you could never have learned on land. On land, everything demanded certainty, control, constant progress toward defined goals. But here, on the sea, you have learned a different way. You have learned to move with what is given, to adjust to changing conditions, to find your rhythm within the larger rhythms of wind and tide. You have learned the pirate's rhythm, not the rhythm of violence or theft, but the rhythm of freedom. The rhythm of a life lived on your own terms, outside the boundaries others would draw for you. The moon rises, full and bright, turning the sea to silver. You and James sit in comfortable silence, watching the light spread across the water. The ship rocks gently, almost imperceptibly. The sails hang loose, barely moving. The rest of the crew has gone below to sleep, and you and James have the deck to yourselves. In the distance, you can hear a sound, faint but distinct. At first, you cannot identify it, but then you realize it is whales. Their songs carrying across the water, deep and resonant and ancient. You and James both fall completely silent, listening. The sound seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, as if the sea itself is singing. It rises and falls, complex and beautiful, a language you cannot understand but can feel in your chest. You do not know how long you listen. Time seems to stop, or perhaps to become irrelevant. There is only the sound of the whales singing in the darkness, and the silver light of the moon, and the gentle rocking of the ship. Eventually, the songs fade. The whales are moving away, continuing their migration to wherever it is they are going. And you and James are left in silence again, but it is a different silence now, deeper, more profound. A silence full of awe. I'll never get tired of that, James whispers. No, you agree. Never. He returns to his scrimshaw, and you lean back against the rail, looking up at the stars. You feel filled with something you cannot name. Not happiness exactly, though you are happy. Not contentment, though you are content. Something larger, something that encompasses both and goes beyond them. Gratitude, perhaps, for this life, for this moment, for the gift of being here now, witnessing the beauty of the world. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, letting the moment settle into your bones, into your memory, into the very fabric of who you are becoming. The days and nights continue to unfold, one into the next, without clear boundaries or markers. You wake and work and eat and rest. You stand watch under the stars. You help adjust the sails as the wind shifts. You scrub the deck and mend the lines and learn new knots from Tom the sailmaker. And slowly, gradually, You realize that you are no longer measuring your life against any external standard. You are not asking yourself if you are productive enough, successful enough, if you are making progress towards some distant goal. You are simply living, day by day, moment by moment, trusting the rhythm of the ship and the sea to guide you. This is the pirate's rhythm, not urgency but patience, not ambition but presence. Not the constant striving for more, but the deep satisfaction of enough. You have enough. This ship, this crew, this endless ocean. The warmth of the sun and the coolness of the night breeze. The taste of salt on your lips and the sound of water against the hull. The stars overhead and the deck beneath your feet. This is enough. This is everything. And in the quiet spaces between the work and the words, in the shared silence and the lantern light and the steady rocking of the waves, you are discovering who you truly are. Not who you were told to be, not who you thought you should become, but who you are when all the noise and expectation and urgency fall away. You are someone who belongs to the sea, someone who has learned to trust the tides. Someone who measures time by light and wind and the slow turning of the stars. You are a pirate. Not because you take from others, but because you have claimed your freedom. Because you have chosen to live outside the boundaries that would contain you, to move according to your own rhythm, to answer to no authority but the wind and the water and your own deep knowing. This is your life now. And you would not trade it for anything in the world. The ship sails on through the silver night, and you sail with her, trusting, resting, becoming. Part 4, Havana at Anchor. The ship reaches Havana on an evening when the sky is the color of ripening peaches. You are standing at the rail when the city first appears on the horizon. A low smudge of buildings and fortifications rising from the coast, golden in the slanting light. As the asterisk calm water draws closer, the details emerge. Stone walls and church spires, red-tiled roofs clustered together, the imposing shape of El Morro Fortress guarding the harbor entrance. It is the largest city you have seen since leaving England. Larger than any of the small island settlements you have visited over the past months. The harbor is crowded with ships, merchant vessels and naval frigates, fishing boats and small traders, all moving or anchored in the protected waters. The captain decides to anchor offshore rather than enter the harbor proper. Too many questions in there, he says quietly, studying the scene through his spyglass. Too many officials who want to see papers and manifests. We'll stay out here, send a boat in for supplies if we need them. So the asterisk calm water drops anchor perhaps half a mile from the harbor entrance, far enough to avoid attention, but close enough to see the city clearly. Close enough to watch the life of Havana unfold along its waterfront. You stand at the rail as the sun sets, watching the city transform. Lanterns are lit along the streets. Windows glow with warm yellow light. You can hear, faintly across the water, the sounds of the city, bells ringing, voices calling, the distant music of guitars and drums. It is beautiful, vibrant, alive with human activity and commerce and all the complexity of civilization. And you feel nothing, not longing, not curiosity, not even the faintest desire to go ashore and walk those streets, to see what lies behind those glowing windows. You realize, standing there in the gathering darkness, that you are no longer drawn to the land. That something fundamental has shifted inside you. The sea is your home now. The ship is where you belong. And the city, beautiful as it is, feels like something separate from you, something you can observe and appreciate but no longer need to be part of. The night settles over the water, and Havana becomes a constellation of lights against the darkness. You remain at the rail long after the sun has set, just watching. The city glitters and sparkles, hundreds of lanterns and fires creating a glow that reflects off the water. You can see the outline of the fortifications, darker shapes against the lit buildings. You can see ships moving in the harbor, their own lanterns marking their positions. It is like looking at a painting, you think, or a scene from someone else's life. Beautiful to witness, but not something you need to enter. James comes to stand beside you. He has been to Havana before many times. He knows the taverns and the markets, the narrow streets where sailors go to spend their pay on rum and company. Not interested in going ashore? He asks. You shake your head slowly. No, I'm content here. He nods as if this makes perfect sense. I know that feeling. Been plenty of times when I've stayed aboard while others went into port. Sometimes the ship is just better. Quieter, you say. Quieter. You stand together, watching the lights. After a while, James speaks again. First time I came to Havana, I couldn't wait to get off the ship. Wanted to see everything, taste everything, experience everything the city had to offer. He smiles slightly. Spent 3 days ashore, drank too much, spent too much coin, woke up with a pounding head and an empty purse. And now, you ask, now I know that what I'm looking for isn't in there. He gestures toward the city. It's out here, has been all along. You understand exactly what he means, because you have made the same discovery. Whatever it was you were seeking when you left Portsmouth, whatever emptiness you were trying to fill, whatever peace you were trying to find, you have found it. Not in any city or settlement, not in any particular place, but here, in the rhythm of the ship, in the endless movement of the sea, in the life you have chosen. The city continues to sparkle in the distance, and you continue to watch it, but without any pull toward it. It is simply there, existing in its own sphere while you exist in yours. The asterisk calm water stays at anchor off Havana for 3 days. During the daylight hours, you can see the city clearly. You watch the boats moving in and out of the harbor, carrying cargo and passengers. You watch people moving along the waterfront, small figures at this distance, going about their business. You watch the changing light on the stone buildings, the way the sun illuminates the walls in the morning and leaves them in shadow in the afternoon. But you do not go ashore. None of the crew does, except for 2 men who row into the harbor to purchase fresh water and some provisions. They return within a few hours, and the boat is hauled back aboard, and life on the ship continues as it always has. You work, you eat, you rest, you stand your watches. The routine is the same whether the ship is anchored off a city or sailing across empty ocean. And you find comfort in that sameness, that continuity. On the second night at anchor, you are sitting on deck after the evening meal, leaning against the mainmast. The sky is clear and full of stars, though the light from the city makes them slightly less brilliant than they are in the open ocean. The air is warm and still, and the ship barely moves on the calm water. Peter settles down nearby. He is quiet for a time, then speaks. Don't you want to see it, the city? You consider the question. I can see it from here. But to walk the streets, to see what's there, too, he trails off, searching for words. To be part of it. I was part of a city once, you say quietly. It didn't suit me. Peter is young enough that he still feels the pull of new places, new experiences. You remember that feeling, the belief that somewhere else in some other place you would find what you were looking for. But you have learned something that Peter has not yet learned, that you can carry yourself with you wherever you go. That the peace you seek, the belonging you need, is not found in any external location, but in how you inhabit your own life. Maybe someday you'll understand, you say gently, that you already have what you need. Peter looks uncertain, but he nods. He will learn in time. The sea will teach him, as it has taught you. On the third night, you are on watch. The middle watch, the hours between midnight and dawn when the world feels most quiet, most removed from the concerns of daylight. The rest of the crew is sleeping below. You are alone on deck except for the captain, who often keeps the watch company during these hours, unable to sleep for long stretches as most captains seem to be. He is standing near the stern, looking out at the city. You are at the bow, looking out at the dark expanse of ocean beyond the harbor. And between you, the ship rests quietly on the still water. After perhaps an hour of this shared silence, the captain walks forward to where you stand. He leans on the rail beside you, his weathered face barely visible in the starlight. "You've settled in well," he says. It is something he has said before, but tonight there is a different quality to it, an acknowledgement of something deeper. "Thank you, sir." "Do you miss it, the land?" You shake your head. "No, sir, not anymore." He nods slowly. "That's when you know," he says quietly, "when you stop missing the land. When you stop thinking about going back, that's when you've truly become a sailor." He pauses, or in our case, a pirate, I suppose, though I've never much cared for the word. "What would you call us then?" you ask. He considers this. "Free men," he says finally. "Men who have chosen to live according to our own lights, answerable only to ourselves and the sea." He looks out at the dark water. "The world would call us criminals, outlaws, and by their laws, perhaps we are. But we harm no one who doesn't have plenty to spare. We take what we need and leave the rest. We live quietly, without violence when we can avoid it." He turns to you. "Does that seem criminal to you?" "No, sir, nor to me." He straightens. "I've been at sea for 32 years, sailed under many flags, followed many laws. And I've learned that the law is often just a way for the powerful to control the powerless. Out here, the only law that matters is the law of the sea. Treat her with respect. Work with your crew, share fairly, harm none who don't threaten you first." He smiles slightly. "Simple laws, honest laws." You stand together in the darkness, looking out at the water. Behind you, Havana glitters with its lights and its noise and its endless human activity. But here, on the deck of the calm water, there is only peace. "I'm glad you stayed with us," the captain says. "You've become a good sailor. More than that, you understand what this life is really about. Not all men do. Some come to sea looking for adventure or wealth, and when they don't find it, they grow bitter. But you came looking for something else, I think. Peace," you say quietly. "I came looking for peace." "And did you find it?" You smile. "Yes, sir, I did." He nods, satisfied. "Good, that's good." He clasps your shoulder briefly, then makes his way back toward the stern, leaving you alone with your thoughts and the night. You think about his words, about finding peace. It is strange, you reflect, that you found it here, in a life that the world would call uncertain, dangerous, outside the bounds of law and propriety. You have no permanent home, no guarantee of where you will be from 1 month to the next, no security in the conventional sense. And yet you feel more secure than you ever did on land, more grounded, more certain of yourself and your place in the world. Because security, you have learned, is not about having a fixed address or a steady income or a predictable future. Security is about knowing who you are, about trusting yourself, about being at peace with uncertainty. And you have that now. You know who you are. You are someone who belongs to the sea, who has learned to move with the rhythms of wind and tide, who can work with their hands and trust their judgment and find contentment in the simple routines of shipboard life. You do not need the city behind you to validate your existence. You do not need to accumulate possessions or climb any ladder of success. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You simply need this: the deck beneath your feet, the stars overhead, the endless conversation between ship and sea. This is enough. This has always been enough. You just needed to leave everything else behind to discover it. The dawn comes slowly, as it always does. The sky lightens gradually from black to deep blue to pale gold. The stars fade. The city of Havana becomes visible again, its buildings emerging from the darkness, the details of streets and walls and rooftops becoming clear. You watch the transformation from your position at the bow. The rest of the crew is beginning to stir below. Soon someone will come to relieve you from the watch, and you will go below to eat breakfast and perhaps sleep for a few hours before the day's work begins. But for now, you simply stand here, witnessing the arrival of another day. The water between the ship and the city is calm and smooth, reflecting the colors of the sky. A few small boats are already moving in the harbor, fishermen going out to their nets, perhaps, or early traders heading to market. The city is waking up. Soon the streets will be full of people, full of noise and commerce and all the complicated business of human society. Thousands of lives being lived, thousands of stories unfolding. And you are content to watch it from here, from this distance, from this place of peace. You hear footsteps behind you. Tom coming to take over the watch. He nods to you in the growing light. Quiet night? Very quiet, you say. Good. He settles into position and you make your way below. The space between decks is dim and close but familiar. Your hammock waits for you, swaying gently with the motion of the ship. You climb in and let it hold you, let the canvas enfold you. You close your eyes, and within moments you are drifting toward sleep. Your dreams are peaceful. You dream of water, of endless horizons, of a life lived in rhythm with something larger than yourself. On the fourth day, the captain decides to leave Havana behind. There is no particular reason to stay longer, and the trade winds are favorable for sailing south. So, in the early morning, before the sun is fully up, the anchor is raised and the sails are set. You are part of the crew that raises the anchor, working the capstan in a slow circle, the heavy chain coming up link by link from the bottom of the sea. It is hard work, but you have grown strong these past months. Your hands know what to do. Your body moves with the rhythm of the labor. When the anchor breaks free from the bottom, you feel it through the ship, a subtle shift, a lightness. The asterisk calm water is no longer tethered to this place. She is free to move again. The sails are unfurled and they fill with wind. The ship begins to glide forward, leaving Havana behind. You make your way to the rail and look back at the city one last time. It is beautiful in the morning light, golden and serene. The fortifications stand strong and solid. The buildings cluster together in their familiar patterns. The harbor is busy with activity, but you feel no regret at leaving. No sense of missing out on anything, because you are not leaving anything behind. You are simply moving forward, continuing the journey, following the wind wherever it wants to take you. This is your life now, this constant movement, this trust in the journey. And as Havana grows smaller behind you, as the open ocean stretches out ahead, you feel something settle deep in your chest. Understanding, acceptance, peace. You have already arrived, not at any destination, but at a way of being. A way of moving through the world. A way of living that is aligned with who you truly are. The days that follow are like all the days before them, and yet somehow new. You work the sails, you stand your watches, you eat and sleep and talk quietly with the crew. The ship sails south, then east, then south again, following the wind and the captain's instincts. You pass islands, some familiar, some new. You encounter merchant ships and negotiate for cargo. You anchor in empty coves and swim in crystal clear water. You watch storms approach from a distance and adjust the sails to ride them out safely. And through it all, you feel a deepening sense of rightness, of being exactly where you belong. The urgency that once drove you, the need to achieve, to prove yourself, to get somewhere, has completely fallen away. You are not trying to get anywhere anymore. You are simply here, fully present to each moment as it unfolds. This is the greatest gift the sea has given you. Not adventure or freedom or even peace exactly, but presence. The ability to be fully alive in the moment you are in without grasping for something else, without wishing you were somewhere different. One evening, perhaps a week after leaving Havana, you are sitting on deck with several members of the crew. The sun has just set, and the sky is streaked with purple and deep blue. The ship is sailing smoothly, and there is no work that needs doing, so you are all simply resting, talking quietly, sharing the companionable silence. James is telling a story about his first voyage when he was even younger than Peter is now. It is a story he has told before, but no one minds. The stories bear repeating. They are part of the fabric of this life, woven and rewoven with each telling. Peter is half asleep, his head nodding. Tom is working on his scrimshaw, the piece nearly finished now, the waves and stars carved in delicate detail into the whalebone. And you are simply sitting, listening, watching the last light fade from the sky. In this moment, you realize something. You realize that you have not thought about your old life in weeks. The room in Portsmouth, the work you used to do, the person you used to be, all of it has faded into the past, become irrelevant. You are not that person anymore. You have become someone new. Someone shaped by the sea and the wind and the rhythm of this life. And you are grateful for that transformation. Grateful for every step of the journey that brought you here. Grateful for the courage it took to leave, for the ship that carried you across the ocean, for the crew that accepted you, for the captain who saw something in you worth keeping. But most of all, you are grateful for the sea itself, for the way it has held you, taught you, changed you, for the way it has given you permission to let go of everything that did not serve you and to embrace what does. Later that night, you are on watch again. The moon is a thin crescent, barely providing any light. The stars are brilliant and thick, scattered across the black sky like diamond dust. The ship is a small island of wood and canvas moving through an ocean of darkness, and you are the only person awake to witness it. You stand at the bow, your usual position, and you breathe deeply. The air is warm and soft. The wind is steady. The water rushing past the hull is a constant whisper, a voice speaking in a language you are still learning but beginning to understand. You think about all the nights you have stood here, all the watches you have kept, all the hours spent in this exact spot looking out at the endless ocean. And you think about how this never gets old, how each night is different even though they are all the same, how the sea is always changing and yet always constant, how you can do the same thing over and over, stand watch, adjust sails, eat the same simple food, and still find it meaningful, still feel engaged with life. This is because you are not looking for novelty anymore. You are not chasing the next exciting thing. You have learned to find depth in simplicity, richness in routine, meaning in the ordinary moments that make up most of a life. You have learned the secret that so many people never discover. That peace is not found in accumulating experiences or achievements, but in being fully present to whatever you are doing, however simple it might be. Standing watch is just standing watch. And yet it is also communion with the night, with the sea, with the vast mystery of existence. Adjusting sails is just adjusting sails. And yet it is also an act of cooperation with the wind, a dance between human effort and natural forces. Eating salt pork and ship's biscuit is just eating. And yet it is also nourishment, gratitude, the simple pleasure of satisfying hunger. Everything is both ordinary and sacred, both simple and profound. This is what the sea has taught you. This is the wisdom you have earned through these months of patient presence. The stars wheel slowly overhead, marking the passage of time. You do not know what will come next. You do not know where the asterisk calm water will sail tomorrow, or next week, or next month. You do not know if you will stay with this crew forever or eventually find your way to another ship. You do not know how long this life will last or what will happen when it ends. But you are not troubled by this not knowing. You have learned to trust the journey. To trust that whatever comes will be exactly what needs to come. That you will handle it, adapt to it, find your way through it. Because the sea has made you strong. Not just in body, though your muscles have hardened from the work, but strong in spirit. Strong in your ability to accept what is. Strong in your capacity to be present and patient and at peace. You are not the person who left Portsmouth all those months ago. That person was frightened and rigid and weighted down by expectations. You are someone new, someone free. Someone who has learned to live in rhythm with the world instead of fighting against it. Someone who has already arrived at the only destination that matters, being fully alive, fully present, fully yourself. As the night deepens and the stars grow brighter, you feel a profound sense of gratitude wash through you. Gratitude for this ship, for this crew, for this life. Gratitude for the courage you found to leave, for the strength you discovered to stay, for the patience you developed to learn. Gratitude for every sunrise and every sunset, for every island and every empty ocean, for every storm weathered and every calm endured. Gratitude for the person you have become, for the peace you have found, for the understanding that you are exactly where you belong. You look up at the stars, and they look back at you, ancient and knowing. They have witnessed countless sailors standing just as you are standing now, looking up in wonder, feeling small and vast at the same time. You are part of a lineage that stretches back thousands of years. Part of the human story of going to sea, of leaving the land behind, of finding in the ocean something that cannot be found anywhere else. And you are grateful to be part of that story, grateful to carry it forward, grateful to add your own small verse to the great song that sailors have been singing since humans first ventured out onto the water. The watch continues, the night deepens, the ship sails on, and you stand at the bow, breathing with the rhythm of the waves, trusting the sea to hold you, knowing that you have already arrived at the only place you ever needed to be. Here, now, at peace, the sea whispers its endless stories. The stars wheel overhead. The ship rocks gently beneath your feet, and you are home, not in any port or harbor, not in any city or settlement. But here, in this moving, breathing, ever-changing world of water and wind and stars, you are home in yourself, home in this life, home in the understanding that you need nothing more than what you already have. The night air is warm on your skin. The deck is solid beneath your feet. The horizon is invisible in the darkness, but you know it is there, always waiting, always calling you forward. You close your eyes and smile. You are a pirate, a sailor, a free person living by your own lights. But more than that, you are someone who has learned to trust, to rest, to be. Someone who has learned that arrival is not about reaching a destination, but about becoming who you truly are. And you have arrived. You have arrived at this moment, this breath, this gentle rocking of the ship on the dark water. You have arrived at peace, and it is enough. It is everything. The eastern sky begins to lighten, almost imperceptibly at first. The faintest hint of gray along the horizon, the first suggestion that another day is coming. But you are not eager for it to arrive. You are content here, in this liminal space between night and day, between darkness and light. Because you have learned that the in-between places are where the magic lives. Not in the dramatic moments, but in the quiet ones. Not in the arrivals and departures, but in the journey itself. This is your life now, this gentle unfolding, this patient presence, this trust in the rhythm of things. And as the first birds begin to call in the distance, as the stars begin to fade and the sky begins to brighten, you stand at the bow of the asterisk calm water and you breathe deeply. You are grateful. You are at peace. You are home. And the sea, as it always has, holds you gently, surely, carrying you forward into another day, another moment, another breath. This is enough. This is everything. This is exactly where you are meant to be. The ship sails on, and you sail with her, trusting, resting, being already arrived.